We're live.
Boom. Dream show. Live. Later. Live. But
Later.
yeah, we
It's
went
10
rabbit
a.m.
hole
somewhere.
chasing a few minutes since we've been here for a while.
Yeah,
Unless we
we've
were
been.
just talking to each other, which was probably the best part.
That's the whole
Yeah.
reason we do this show is so
It's-
that we like remember to call.
yeah. And then things just come up and it's like, oh wait, that could be good. We should just talk about that on the show. So yeah, here's the show. 20 minutes after we started talking about everything else that's going on. I hope everybody's doing well today. It is Wednesday. We did at least do that.
We did.
Um, man, been running and gunning the last couple weeks. I've been busy. Not so
You,
much with
you've been deep in
jujitsu stuff.
baseball world.
Yeah, baseball, softball with my kids, and helping another team that's not mine, but the dad and his kids, they all come to jujitsu. So
How refreshing is that? Like you were talking about it the other day to like get a different perspective, but from the lens that you have like through jujitsu. Like how nice is that to like kind of get that breath of fresh air?
it's been fun because it's taken a lot of the kind of pressure, I guess, that I would have in the room of the gym, in a way, uh, and kind of just let me see more of what it really should be like, I guess, for what we even do, uh, and not technical or not, but just
Yeah.
to handle the room, so to say, or the field, the kids, their the age groups and the different things that they might be dealing with or struggling with or whatever. And then taking it out there is like it reminded me like of how fun that used to be as a kid and stuff too, And so like jujitsu and MMA stuff's always been very serious for me. It's always, been really, really serious. And I didn't really let it be as fun as it should have been.
It
Uh,
wasn't a game.
yeah, it's not, yeah, I didn't look at it that way. And so, mm, for right, better, worse, whatever, not right or wrong, but, I could see where that there was a disconnect maybe with some kids for sure in that way. Uh, they weren't even ready for a lot of those kinds of lessons yet, and they didn't need them really yet per se. But they did need some of the talks and the way that you handle that and the way when they need discipline. It's not like punishment and things like that. It's teaching them how to be, how to act, and through the games you learn the citizenship, the teamwork, the competitive nature it takes, overcoming whatever stuff, being a good winner, being a good loser, but also wanting to get, like redemption or whatever, trying to get back. We lost to these guys a couple weeks ago. How do y'all feel about that? Okay, well then let's go get it, and
Yeah.
do your best then. And if we don't get it, that's fine. But I think we're gonna be able to do it if we play our best game. And so different things like that made it easier for me, I think, to pull back and see that as a whole too from the other side. And with what we're doing with the PGF stuff, that's also what I'm saying. It's also
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
layering that way. Excuse me, to where it's not what it was. Not that that's good or bad or anything again, but just like it's a game now. We're looking at it as a game, and it's something that uses jujitsu, and so you learn how to do the game, and that still teaches you a version of grappling that may not be traditional or whatever it is, and even mine wasn't traditional, you know. Um, but yeah, being out there, being with all those people, and having different perspectives, and seeing, and everybody out there's a volunteer. There's no like paid jobs except for maybe the umps or whatever, but it's not
Yeah.
enough probably for them for what they have to do sometimes. So that's been nice, and meeting a lot of other people in the community that do different things, but are also interested in coaching and the community and kids, and it's just giving me a more comfortable opportunity to meet people rather than going to like meet and greets for the
Yeah.
business people in the community
Yeah.
or whatever. I can meet them somewhere where I'm more at ease because I
In a
don't.
relaxed
Yeah,
state. Yeah.
yeah. This is me in my natural environment more. this is who you would be getting if you came to jiu-jitsu often. The way,
Yeah.
like this is me. This, and I'm not
Coaching kids
selling.
is coaching kids. Like, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
caring is caring, and the way you handle it is the way you handle it, and that's it. So blending all those things together has been really nice. Um, and then yeah, having the family all working on something, doing something together has been pretty fun too. So that's just a bunch of good things about it as a family, and um, yeah, just been busy with that, and it's been a lot of fun though. My little our little 9U team, the 10th Planet Perry 9U Braves, got second place in the tournament this weekend.
Nice.
That was a lot of fun, man. We had
Yeah.
some tough times during the season. It's 9-year-old kids trying to learn the game, and they're pitching for the first time and stuff. So there's a lot of up and
So
downs.
they're
And
pitching, like they're up on the mound pitching to each other at that
yeah, this is
age.
the first time for most of them that they've either done it or seen it from a kid. So there's a lot of
That's scary.
there's a big drop right there, or whatever that you'll see
Yeah.
from people who want to stay and go uh, from that level change.
That's around when I quit because I got put in the outfield, and the outfield was a terrible place because, like you said, the kids are learning how to hit that at that point. And I was just like standing there, like, man, this is because I went from catching.
Yeah,
I enjoyed like playing like because
being a ball.
baseball to me, the exchange between the batter, the pitcher, and the catcher, that's the game to me. I understand there's a ton more that plays out once the time that the hit, but the only time I'm entertained if I'm watching or if I'm playing is in that exchange.
Mm.
And that's when I got turned off was when I got put in the outfield.
It's slow. It's slow, and and sometimes it's that's a thing that you got to get past, and then somehow teach the kids not to get negative
Yeah.
if that's what's happening to them, because it becomes important, because some of them are hitting it hard next year.
Yeah.
Lots of
Yeah.
teams are hitting it out there next year. So this year, it's teaching that delayed gratification thing in a way too. And
Yeah.
Thomas, he's had to be outfield a lot this season, and he had not done that much. But there's been several kids hitting home runs and lots of balls hit out to the outfield positions this
Yeah.
season. And so learning that has been good for him, because as he gets older and bigger, if he does continue to play, it's just what's going to happen. And the
Yeah.
better you are
Yeah.
at the game as a whole, then you'll be able to play longer.
Yeah.
That's just it. So like, I'm not saying banking on anything except for that if he enjoys it, we'll keep doing it. And if
Yeah.
he's working hard at it, I'll support him. As and Charlie too. She's really gotten into softball in a way that was surprising, because she was at first like, I don't want to do it, but then she got on a team with a couple of her friends, and they're winning a bunch, and so it's like that's sometimes what happens.
That too, like the kids are gonna do. I mean, I noticed that in teaching like kids classes is that like if their homies are into it, and especially if their homies are like paying attention and like trying to get better at it, well, they do too. And so
Well,
it's
yeah, they
like
want
it's a
to.
chain reaction with the kids when they're like, oh, this is fun, and we all do that. Like it's a social thing, right?
Yep. And so that's the culture that you got to be able to develop, and that goes back into what I was saying too on the other side of
Right.
that. It's got to be fun. It's got to be serious, and you've got to learn, and all that stuff is true, but it's got to be fun. They've got to want to come back. They've got to want to participate. They've got to want to do the work, and that's somehow what you got to let them know. And so much like we talk about with people who don't want to submit or whatever it is, or not tapping and different things like that. When you're batting, you got to go up there and risk striking out, or you're just going to look bad no matter what. Then, because you're not doing anything but
Because you're
watching.
not. Yeah.
Yep. You got to actively try.
Ooh, that's a good comparison when you, especially when you start talking about like the tournament scene and like what people are winning and losing on, and when we're arguing about these points, it's like that's it. Is that we're arguing about like I'm just watching a guy that I know can hit a home run stand in the batter's box and
You
do
just got to
nothing.
swing it. Just swing it.
Yeah,
It's okay.
yeah,
Strike out. And that was
up
a
or
hard,
low.
it's a hard thing to get over in that way. Because that's, oh no, I struck out, I suck. But then also, man, if you hit the next one that you swung that hard at, so like it's quality swings or whatever. And that's the same thing with your jiu-jitsu. As long as you're taking quality reps out there, and if you get countered and beat, then you're gonna learn man, okay, that's what happens when I try that and I miss or whatever. So you start to learn the counters, or it works. So it just is what it is. You got to go, swing the stick, so to say.
Swing the sword is what you would say to me.
Yeah,
Is when it's
it's the
time.
same thing.
Sup,
It's the same
Wallow?
thing. Do you ever see that video of the dude that chopped the ball in half with a samurai sword from the Cubs?
Yeah. He did.
Picture
Didn't
that.
they do like a golf ball at one point? I know they did a baseball.
Yeah, I don't know how many they did, but the dude was set up across from him. It's just funny to see that. It's not the same, but it can be. It's all everything is just human movement, and so there's so many correlations between it. And like you were saying, in a way, I think the pitching and batting catching thing, I think that's a fight. I think that's just like a fight. That's the
Yeah,
same thing as
yeah.
two
It's
guys that are
problem solving with consequences and high stakes.
well, but you're setting them up. You're showing them things, right? You're letting them see something, and then you make it another way, but it
Look
looks the
different.
same, and then that's how you land. That you try to trick them, and then you try to be the person who doesn't get tricked. You got to kind of anticipate what they're going to be throwing if you can, or just have really good instincts that you've trained to be able to get it from
Pattern
wherever.
recognition.
And that's what it is. That's all it is. High level pattern recognition, uh, over and over and
Yeah.
over again. And then that's the better your patterns are, the better you are, right? And so that's
Mm.
that. And then in the field, you're right. It becomes kind of math almost in that way with the angles and different things like that.
Which
It's a super nerdy game. It's a super nerdy game.
here's a controversial take or topic in that same field, but then like I feel like answers a bunch of questions that we're like arguing in ours. Steroids did make that game better.
Mm,
All right, made the players better at the game. Is that a better way to put it? Because that's what like all right, my statement that I'm pointing that against is where people go, oh well, does just because they're on steroids or just because they're on the sauce make them better at jiu-jitsu? Say, well, we answered that in baseball.
it does make them better, but it does. That's not the only thing. Like
No, yeah, well,
you got
100%.
to
There's
be
the skill,
really, really good.
but take somebody who's really, really, really good and then make them really strong.
No, strong definitely helps. That's and then the bigger thing over that though is that it's a long season. If you're thinking about professionals, there's 162 games,
Yeah.
and so to be stronger longer, or more
Ah,
often and have more endurance and be stronger for sure, like for that one punch. But
yeah.
also,
It's the endurance
it's
aspect.
truly recovery. It's truly,
Oh
for
man,
that
I didn't even
purpose.
mean to segue this, but yeah,
It's a
like that.
grind.
That's the thought that I was thinking today. Is that like, I just turned 35 and I've been playing the game since like I guess 2010, 2009, 2010. And so it was like one of the things that I always think about when I'm like, if I ever try to mount back into like competition mode, is that the goal has completely changed to just, yes, I made it through 3 days and I'm like recovering and I feel normal today, as opposed to just how much more can I do today?
I need to exhaust
It's,
myself as much as possible so I can finish
yeah,
the day. Yeah,
yeah,
no, it's definitely different. It's definitely different, but it's been cool. Like I said, just being able to, like you said, to have that other, using the lens that I have and seeing this again. We've talked about it a little bit, but it's just different than you ever thought, maybe, as a kid, unless you were, I don't know. I get the same thing with jujitsu. There's so much more advanced teaching and training and technology and access for everybody now that is
yeah,
different.
yeah.
Uh, they're just way better than everybody else was back in the day. Even though it's still really really hard to be elite. They're just everybody's better.
Well, I mean, and it's almost like that guy was right when he said, know one thing deeply and know everything broadly, or something like that, right?
Hey, get on down there. If that river is narrow, you gotta follow that thing till it gets wide, boy.
Because then you're in the ocean.
That's when you'll find the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, Musashi or somebody said that. Mountain Man Musashi from the
Matt
Appalachia.
Man Musa. That's like a great
That's my
like
new skit that I'm coming up with.
um that completely derailed any thought that I had following. Like I had to look away from you between the shirt that it, you completely
Oh,
derailed
that one
me.
got me. I didn't even expect it. Oh man, don't let me forget that one. We got to do something with that. That's
A
good.
good thing it's recorded.
Oh man, I still forget everything I say on here.
Do you see stuff on the internet these days that you're like, I don't even remember saying that?
Oh yeah, all the time,
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah,
Especially if it's something from last week.
for sure. Like if it was like what, because when you get done with a live show, that's one thing that I've noticed about people that are good at the live broadcast is they dump it all out there. And so when they get done, a
Yeah,
lot of times they were in a zone. So they're like,
mm,
I don't remember what I said.
for sure. As long as it's nothing bad or out of big out of pocket or anything happens like that, I really don't remember. And even some of the smaller, like that's saying, unless it's bigger, I don't even remember the
Yeah.
mistakes hardly anymore. Used to, I'd be like, "Oh my god, I made a mistake. It's gonna be the worst
You
day
have to
ever." And
ignore
then
those.
3 minutes later, it's just
Yeah.
jamming along and everything's great. So,
Have you ever seen the compilations of like live musicians and stuff where they're playing and nobody notices, but like they're playing without a string or like they had to like completely like throw one guitar and catch another one and keep going and like there's all kinds of crazy stuff that happens that like when you're at a high level. I mean, it's like fighting. Like we circle all the way back around of like people will go, "Oh, that was a boxing clinic," and then if you, the person who was doing it, or a very very high level coach is sitting there watching it, they sit there and go, "Oh no, like he slipped there, he missed there," but because you continued the motion and you followed the pattern, the mistakes look smaller.
mhm.
It doesn't mean flawless. Like I think people get hung up on mastery, and they think mastery means flawless, and I don't think that that's true. I don't think mastery is flawless. I think that the flawlessness comes from the fact that you can make the flaws look like they were on purpose. Happy
Mm,
mistakes. Didn't we have a big curly haired guy like try to teach us that? Happy mistakes. There are no sad mistakes.
that's interesting. That's interesting. Um,
Oh look, we have a bush now. Like that's supposed to be how you master something, right?
yeah, I think you're right. It's just making the routine be routine, but it's not. Nothing is ever routine. You know what I mean? It's just doing the thing no matter what, and it's just doing it.
Is that like hmm, when you're talking about greatness and like people that hit the very top of whatever it is? Because I remember watching what was the name of that movie that Adam Sandler did that was about the basketball player that he discovered in Europe? Do you
Mhm.
know which one I'm talking about? It's like Grind or Hustle. Maybe it's Hustle. Either way, that movie, that Adam Sandler basketball movie. I was watching that movie. And I remember it like kind of upsetting me watching him. He's supposed to be the manager, and he was getting up at 3 a.m. and driving in a car behind the guy to run up a hill so that the guy would be in shape for like getting to the thing. It's like, you know what? Nobody's driving behind LeBron or nobody was like forcing Jordan at that level. Once you realize you're there, no one gets there and stays there with somebody pushing them up the hill. They're pushing themselves up the hill. I think that that's was a misrepresentation of what necessarily greatness. There's definitely people that light that fire, but nobody's driving you up the hill at 3 a.m. once you get there. You think, or am I
Yep,
wrong?
he wasn't there though. That's the
Who-
thing. He
What?
wasn't there though yet. The guy in the
Oh,
movie.
okay. Yeah, but
So
if
sometimes
you're
though,
representing greatness, do they get there because of somebody, and that is just a interpretation of that?
Nobody's ever done it by themselves.
Good point.
And it could be simple as, like we said, somebody motivated you in the right way when you were younger. But if not, then you need to find whatever that is, person, situation, circumstances that are going to motivate you to want to achieve that, because it's crazy to try to be that in anything. That level of anything is hard. Like
Yeah,
like it's almost impossible.
that's
But that's what
why
makes
it
it
is.
greatness.
Yeah, that's the greatness. That's why it is
So
what it is.
that's the thing. And then I don't really know the the whole story, I guess, of that movie, I would say, but like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sometimes,
I think it was a fictional story, anyways.
yeah,
Like I don't
greatness
know.
though sometimes might just be getting to the next level, or to a high level for you, or from where you were. If somebody isn't that guy or whatever, and then somehow they found that motivation, and somebody, they worked hard, they ran up the hill with the car behind them and got whatever it was, and then they made it, but they were never the best or the greatest or whatever it is, like that. That's still greatness, in its own right.
Yeah, I
and
feel
and I,
that.
and I think that more of what we're saying, and sometimes talking about greatness or mastery or whatever, is people think, again, perfection, or like they did it all themselves or whatever it is. Like Michael Jordan didn't win shit till Scottie Pippen got there,
Good point.
right? They got him and Horace Grant, I believe, in the same draft, and they both showed up, and then that's
And
when they
that's
started
when
kind of
what
winning,
we
because
know of as
he
the
had the
yeah,
right attitude in the room with him.
yeah,
He
yeah,
may have, like, what I'm saying, he may have been pushing it up the hill by himself the whole time, but now he had people running up the hill at least with him,
with him. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
thing. It's not always about having to be pushed necessarily, but you just want to be,
Somebody running with you up
yeah,
the
you don't,
hill.
that's
Yeah,
the thing. That it makes it less lonely that way for sure. And yeah, Phil Jackson is
Phil
definitely
Jackson.
the
Yeah,
wizard. I've read a few of his books and stuff, and I really like a lot of the coaching philosophies and things like that he kind of talks about a little bit.
yeah. The that it's weird to me when people start making basketball analogies now. I don't even understand them because that's my idea. That's still basketball to me. Like
Shoot the
current
three
basketball.
is what Phil Jackson and those guys.
Like yeah, the '90s
Dark
Bulls.
hair.
Like yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the that whole era of puffy jackets. Everybody had
Springfield.
branded shoes. Like and that was all the thing. But I mean, and watching the growth of jujitsu and like the conversation that everybody's having about what's taking over and all that, like I've started looking a lot back into the like '90s as like far as like where were sports then and like what did they look like and how were they growing and that different type of thing. And like it's interesting to see like when they really started cashing in the '80s. And like super side note on a production thing, I saw this. This is coming from a reel on Instagram, and then I did like one Chat GPT conversation to like confirm it. So like, I feel pretty confident. Uh, the pictures from the '80s and early '90s, and especially in basketball and hockey. Have you ever noticed how the pictures from those sporting events, like the official pictures, look different? Like what was on like Sports Illustrated and whatnot. Have you ever noticed something different about them?
I don't think so. I guess.
There's like a blue haze on all the photos. And it what it did was it created like a backdrop. Like I'm trying to like kind of explain what it is that like the how there's depth of field and like the people that like in the background are hazed out and whatnot. There was a light separation of like a filter. It
Mm,
was indoor smoking.
mm,
While everybody was still smoking in the stadiums and everything, there was just a blue haze of cigarette smoke. And that actually changed the way the photography looked when
mm,
they changed it. on top of digital versus film and all those other things that changed. But like that's one of the major differences between that sports era and the modern sports era as to why visually it looks different. Does
That's
that tickle
insane.
your brain nearly as
Yeah,
hard as it
that's
does
insane
mine?
to think about because, like, I mean, I lived in that era still for
Right.
a good bit. Um, I guess maybe a lot of us did in certain places or whatever. But yeah, that's crazy. I couldn't
Well,
imagine that now.
oh no. Well, I mean, yeah, I've been some places where like it's still like that, but
Mississippi.
for
We're
sure.
talking about you.
Like I've fought in places that I was like, "Are they smoking in here?"
Mm.
Like, I thought they outlawed that like before I was born.
Mm.
The
Hmm.
what's crazy to me about that is that like I used to sit around as a kid and like watch like old sports things with my dad and whatnot, and in my head, when I would watch the thing on the TV, I would always wonder, be like, is this what it really looked like, or does it actually look like the way that it looks through my eyes? I never. It took a while until I was like older to like understand the difference in what the cameras were seeing versus what I was seeing. So like I thought that's what it really looked like. So if I saw like a really blue hazy picture or whatnot in my head, I see that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just don't think I ever thought about it. I don't think that was it. Like, you know what I mean? That's just that wasn't ever
Yeah. No.
necessarily a thing
Yeah.
like that for me because I was trying to think about that. What did I think of? I don't know. Seeing it, I guess I thought that's what it all looked like, but I never went anywhere when I was younger like that to see anything in person.
Mm.
So
What
by
was
the
your
time,
first major sporting event that you went to?
I guess if you say first ever, like I went to definitely like a Falcons game
Okay.
when Michael Vick was around. But I think he just got hurt, so he didn't even play, so it sucked. Um, but when I was a teenager, we just drove, just left and went up to Atlanta and could have died. But it was the '90s. No phones, no nothing, just a map
And that was when the Falcons were playing like on the bad side of Atlanta.
in the dome. Yep, right over there where it was at, and we definitely jumped on the the MARTA for no reason. I was like,
Just
yeah,
to
we're
say you did. Like we
mm-hmm,
went to the big city, we rode the train.
mm-hmm, yep.
We went to Atlanta. Woo.
Didn't know what we were doing though. For sure, it was the dumbest at that point, dumbest thing I'd done. But it was a lot of fun. But that
Yeah.
was probably the first bigger ish thing I'd ever done. But yeah, I guess as a kid, we just didn't have much access to those things down in South Georgia. I guess much,
Yeah.
and
We didn't have any professional sports other than Atlanta when I was growing up.
yeah, I guess Florida State was down there, but we never went to any games.
Yeah.
So that would be the closest like big thing. I guess I went to a lot of wrestling.
Okay.
That was in Dothan though, so that was to me that was huge. That was
Okay.
big, and so that was a lot of the real stars though too. Looking back now, so that's part of probably what was making it cool, is that they were just wearing masks or in different character than
Yeah.
they would have been. But some of those guys turned out to be a
Coming
lot of
in
the
and it was
legends.
like their test, like because
Yeah,
that's
they were in a new
Dothan was just kind of
territory.
like an off show. That wasn't on TV,
No, it's
was
not
it?
territory.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it
Okay.
was. Yeah, it was part of like that one. I forget which the name of that was, but there was like a certain territory that ran through Dothan and all that kind of
Okay.
maybe a little bit into Florida, that part of the panhandle, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so like I just have a funny story that I remember that I thought, I never knew like what who this was or whatever, but like at the farm center over there, what's his name? It was Sid, Psycho Sid or Sid Vicious, Sid Justice. If you everybody remembers who that is, he's like 7 feet tall, basically, and just like this big monster guy. But before that, he was that big popular dude in Dothan. He came, and I can't remember what his name was now, but he had on one of those hockey masks, like from the Friday
Yeah.
the 13th movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this is probably still the mid late 80s, 87, 88 or something like that, I would imagine, based on my
Right.
memory. So that was like the height of that, and so I was terrified of those things, and just any hockey mask in general like that would probably make me scared. So,
Yeah.
but this dude's coming out in character with that, with like the ripped like clothes or whatever, almost
Yeah.
basically. But he's freaking 7 something feet tall,
Yeah.
and I legitimately think it's like this dude, he's gonna kill somebody tonight.
Murderers row.
What's he doing here? Like, he's like, all right, whatever. But then I went to the bathroom a little bit later, and I don't know, maybe they didn't have a bathroom or something like that. But
Yeah.
then he walks in, you know, to the bathroom when I was in there peeing with the mask on, because I guess he obviously had to stay.
Stay,
It's just
never break
good to see
kayfabe,
who he
baby.
is, I guess, right? Yeah, of course. This is that era too, still. And man, I probably didn't finish peeing. I started crying. I ran out there to my uncle. I was so scared, man. And then I saw something years, later or whatever, like a documentary or whatever about it, and they said that that was him, and I was like, oh no, no crap, I was terrified. He's like 7 feet tall or whatever, 280 pounds or
They probably
three
saw
hundred
you go
pounds.
by yourself to the bathroom and he was like, this is gonna be funny.
I was terrified, bro, terrified. So
That's funny.
yeah,
Imagine being that hockey mask company that just one day they went from selling like regular old sports equipment to like, why is everybody buying our hockey mask?
make them cheaper. Take some of that safety away. Just make them scary.
Just make them scary. Put a little bit of red paint on it, Phil. Why? There's a movie.
I mean, I really just need to examine why my daddy was letting me watch Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and all that stuff when I was like 5 or 6 years old. Anyway,
Whoa, yeah,
like
that's a little early for some of those lessons.
I don't remember not watching like horror movies and stuff when I was little and stuff. I was always scared of that shit. But there was only one TV, and so if you wanted to be part of the damn thing, you just take
and,
your little scary ass out there and lay down. So
and
there it
here we
was.
explains a lot.
Trauma dumping on y'all here a little bit today.
what why why are you scared so much of things that are hypothetical situations that would never happen? I don't know, man.
Yeah, it could be the fact that my daddy would get up to go get something to drink, go out the back door, and then wait until the scary part, and then jump against the window that was closest to me. I don't know. I don't know if it has anything to do with that or not.
Why are you so jumpy? Oh man.
This is what you guys get when there's no real jiu-jitsu news to talk about too much.
We get your childhood.
Hey, y'all need to know me better, right? That's what y'all. That's how y'all
That's
are
what the
gonna.
people are here for,
Yeah,
right?
y'all get into it better when y'all know who I am. This is why I act the way I act. I'm
Man,
scared all the time.
that's funny. That's funny because like I see Egghead was saying the 80s were a wild time for parenting. I've seen that a little bit in the cultural experience I've had in Mexico, where, for one, it can be a 2-year-old's birthday party, and we're gonna like throw down till 3 a.m. because
Mm.
there's only once a year we get to celebrate this time, and they do that with everything. And everybody, it's a family affair. And so
Mm.
everybody's there, and so you'll look around like 12:30, and there's all these little kids, and they've like pushed two chairs together, like just two regular old chairs, and the kids are just passed out in the middle. And there's like, this is one of the first like cultural memes that was funny to me, was there's like this meme that goes around on Instagram where like, you're sleeping through your alarm and you hear all this music in the background, and it's like, why can I do this? And then it just like cuts to them as a kid in a party, like laying there,
Mm.
laying there sleeping in the middle of a party. It's like, oh, our whole generation does this.
Just
It's
kind
like,
of used to it.
I was like, that's funny. But so segueing out of the segment of therapy.
Hey, I don't think it's therapy, man. It's just telling a story.
No, I love it.
You know,
Uh
I'm
the
alright.
I turned out okay. It worked out.
It may be tougher now, how much of it was necessary, I don't know, but that's just the random story about the dude with the hockey mask and thing or whatever. That's just a regular kind of funny story to me. And then
Yeah.
the scary movies thing is like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have been watching that stuff when I was little, but you know,
It
can't
taught
do
me
much
lessons.
can't do much about it at this point, right? I just know that
Yeah.
I don't really do that. So
Well, and the I think that what kids get exposed to an extent is also like where they're able to like absorb it. And I think earlier generations and whatnot, what's crazy about this generation to me, like teaching these like kids classes, is like their access to information now. How do you make a scary movie for a kid without which I'm talking about like actual scary movies versus like the gore and everything that happened in the 2000s and like that era of scary movies. I'm talking about like scary movies. Like in that way, like the kids already understand so much about the world at this point. It's fascinating to me. Like you have kids, so like maybe I'm just the
we limit a bunch of the access to stuff,
yeah,
man.
okay.
We're bad parents.
Nah.
No, I know. There's just a lot of stuff that we don't let them do that a lot of people do, or if they're doing it, they have to do whatever it is right there in the living room
Yeah,
where
yeah,
we're all at and able to
yeah,
see and hear or do whatever it
yeah,
is to.
yeah.
Um,
Well, then that's not really limiting their access. They still have access to it. They're just learning how to have the filters that we all already have put in place as adults, and some adults don't have. And that's
no,
the reason that you have to like monitor it.
yeah, there's some of that, but there's definitely some things that are just like, nah, we're not
Yeah,
going to do that no matter what, like that Roblox or whatever it is. I know too many uh,
I know nothing about
adults.
that.
It's just it's I don't know. I don't know enough about it either, but I know enough that I've seen and heard adults that talk about it that
Yeah,
go on there just to do
nefarious. Yeah,
just trolling or really bad or just whatever, depending on what it is, like stuff that you wouldn't want your kid to have
exposed to.
just random
Yeah,
access
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah,
And apparently that it is a big site that's people use to kind of start chatting with kids or whatever. They get them to go into those rooms and then da 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 da,
yeah,
da and then
yeah,
they ask them
yeah.
locations and all that stuff. So we just don't do
It's
that shit.
it's still like that's the thing is there was not very many safety things from the 90s that I feel like were true except for the whole thing of like we all know how to behave on for like to some extent for the on the internet is like it's like being left alone in New York City by yourself. Don't talk to anybody. Don't take anything from anybody. Don't just do what you're here for. Like that's it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. With some of those games and things, it's like, all right, well, who are you trying to talk to? Is it somebody we know from school? Then maybe we can have that kind of situation going on, but we don't just add friends either.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
random internet people that are now your friend that you're talking to all the time on these games. It's got to be somebody that from that we know that is
In
real.
real life. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so now that's kind of been the thing is like they developed a few of those friends that have some games so then they can get in there and jam with their friends or whatever. But sometimes those friends will be like, hey, come to this other game. And it's no, we don't do that. And so it just is what it is. And I don't, what's the word? I don't care what that looks like, maybe
Yeah.
in that way.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if
yeah.
nobody
You
has
want
to
to give them
understand,
real experiences and so that they have like the real like
you got to
tactile like
preserve their
life
innocence as long
experience.
as you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? As long as you can, you got to preserve the kids' innocence and let them be kids and not force them to be into mature situations that they shouldn't have to be. If they, you know what I mean? Things happen sometimes, and then you can't do anything about that once it's already happened. But as a parent, you gotta, you want them to be exposed to certain things, but you want it to be age appropriately or as they develop mentally to a certain point. Then you can start introducing more content, so to say, to them. But, like he's 10 and she's 8. And so he's going to 6th grade next year. So there's just different things that's starting to about to be available to him And
become realities, and
yeah,
yeah,
so we just started having conversations this year about some of that stuff,
yeah,
just preempting whatever it is, and letting him say what he already knows or doesn't know or thinks about stuff, and then just kind of fill that information in and let him know that hey, all kids are full of shit. Don't trust them. Like they
bro.
lie. They're gonna make up a fishtail, and it may just be innocent at first, but if you go with it, you you're gonna be burned. So just like
Yeah,
trust me. I'm your biggest fan. Me and
yeah,
Mama, we're your biggest fans. We're not gonna tell you something wrong on purpose.
yeah, yeah,
Trust us, stuff like that.
yeah,
Like just
yeah,
tell me stuff and trying to not be mad when
yeah,
the whatever it is comes up and they're trying to explain themselves to you, even though you done told them or whatever. You know what I mean? We already went through, but they're
yeah.
clean about something or they're being honest about it or whatever. You can't like double down on them then because when that happens in a really important situation,
They won't.
they won't come to you then because
Yeah,
they'll be afraid of the consequence of whatever you are going to do too. So they'll try to hide things, and
yeah,
that's a problem. So they don't get off scot free from stuff, but we don't we don't really. I try my best not to go too hard on them because they're good kids. They do a lot of stuff and they do a lot of stuff really well. So it's really minor mostly, but I think a lot of that is because we've kept them away from just free roaming the internet their entire
yeah.
lives, and we pull back TV time and different things like that. Once we see behavior patterns start changing, where they start getting too whiny or too whatever it is, it's like no, we gotta turn this off now. We gotta spend
Well, I mean, a lot of these things are modeled, even if it wasn't intentional, give or take. I don't know. I've been listening to some podcasts that people that are like responsible. I mean, Zuckerberg, the guys that built these things, like they say, oh, it really wasn't on purpose, but it's like, well, they do, and they've proven like study after study that like we're tapping into like the sugar and like the dopamine parts of our brain when we're using these things
hmm
as adults. It's like so when like every time you watch a child, and I remember as a kid like when you're told to get off the video game that is like the best thing, you saved up all your allowance, like you're sitting here playing the thing, like you did the thing the commercial told you to do, like you're here, and so
ready.
you're on that dopamine high, and somebody goes stop, like that's like just pulling the pipe right out of the junkie's mouth. Like so I empathize with the kid sometimes when you see the parent like try to
Oh,
like
it
snatch
is.
it out of their hand and be like and you're like what, that sucks.
Well, so there you go again. It goes into the just the way that you handle it, right? And so for
Right.
me, it's like when he starts, we'll just use him for example or whatever it is, just to say. But if he starts getting restless, and I can tell that he's starting to get restless, like he's jumping up and down in his seat or can't sit still to finish the game or whatever it is, he's kind of getting or he's switching between games too much
Or
because he's
getting
not.
agitated, like
Yep.
extra agitated.
Just, yeah, it's like,
Mhm.
hey, it's time to take a break on it. Or the biggest thing I've noticed is that you can't just go in there with a cold start like that and say,
Yeah,
turn it off because of what you just said.
yeah.
You
It's
gotta
got to
kind
be
of,
a taper.
yeah. And then the bigger his reaction was, or whatever, in some of those situations, was like, hey, man, this is a privilege at all. You have no rights to play this at all.
Yeah,
This is something we let you do because we know it's fun and I like playing games too. So, yeah, it is what it is. But this reaction is going to cause you to not be able to have it. And so, if that reaction would happen again, it's like, okay, dude, you can't play it for a day or whatever at first. Nothing crazy like a week because that's just too far. It's like or, like
they
mentally
don't
that's
they don't
and
have the
you had
forward
one, you know what I
projection.
mean? You had one reaction. We're going to take it the rate or no more for the rest of today. Even. You know what I'm saying? Like just
Right.
that's it for the rest of today. And then tomorrow we'll talk about it again. And then tomorrow when we talk about it, it's like, hey, when we say it's time to get off, we're gonna need you to stop having that big reaction about it. Okay. So I'm gonna ask
Find
you
a
to get
place to
off. I'm gonna let
save.
you
Yeah.
like that's the thing. Talking with Mandy sometimes is like, listen, you gotta let him finish or get to a good stopping point because on some of these things you can't just
stop.
get off
Yeah,
necessarily without ruining it in a way. And so it's like
yeah,
we got to give a buffer. So maybe
yeah,
a timer, like a whole timer of like you
yeah.
get 30 minutes, or hey man, you got 10 minutes left. And so be finding a good stopping point, because we're not gonna be
Start
doing
learning
this.
time management.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're not gonna be doing it in 10 minutes. Like, oh, I gotta get it. I started a new game. It's like, I'm sorry, you just have to lose this new game you started, because
yeah,
we told you 10 minutes, and you cannot do a whole game in 10 minutes.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so then you just got to learn all that, with each other there, and again, being honest with each other about it. It's like, hey, dude, I see you are starting to get really anxious and aggravated and whatever. Have you went outside today?
Have you had
Have you
any
done it?
water?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like literally.
yeah,
Like, have you done anything else to,
yeah,
except for, I know we woke up and went up and did whatever, but beyond that, you've not done anything else in the last what, three, so it's like, let's just do something. Go ride your bike to, around the neighborhood for a few minutes. Just get out there and blow some steam or whatever.
yeah,
But just trying to also give him that is a thing that's real. And man, we talked about it a little earlier too. You got to get some of that out physically and express it,
yeah, yeah.
but maybe not to the point of exhaustion all the time. And so maybe if you don't let it build up to that like boiling
Just
point, you don't
go
feel the
get the
need.
endorphins.
Just
Go get
yeah,
the
just
dopamine hit from that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
just
yeah,
just every once in a while. And that's
yeah.
what I say is like, dude, you'll see me, and that's what I've had to say is like, you'll see me every once in a while. I'll just go outside, and then I'll be out there picking weeds out of the flowers, or I'll clip the bushes, or I'll start weed eating or something. Just, I won't even do the whole yard, but I'll just do a section of it, and that's just me like getting whatever that is out, because I'm starting to get
When in your adulthood
restless.
did you that you segued that perfectly of where I was headed? Is that like so? Like, where in your adulthood did you figure that out? Like, what you're teaching him? Like, that's like because
Very
obviously, like, you
recently.
didn't have that as a kid,
Yeah, very, very recently, in
right?
the last few years, I think, even since he's been born, obviously
For
too. I
sure.
think,
Yeah.
probably maybe 4 or 5 years in the most, I would even say, to start to know what that is, and not, let it get crazy. And it still does sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's hard to always, like, when you've been used to doing things all the time, or at least feeling like you have to be always being productive or always be doing something. There's a little bit of shame that sometimes gets attached with turning it off. And so that's been the biggest problem for me with some of that, is just knowing that it's okay to not always be even achieving. I'm okay not having to always achieve. And that sometimes what gets tied into those games, right? You're getting these awards and these, bells and whistles and all that kind of stuff. And so you get XP. That's still a thing. It's a reward, right? People, and that can be a trap. And that's where a lot of addiction comes in at all. And that has been a conversation I've had with him in the last year or so too. It's like, hey, buddy, this kind of behavior is the same kind of behavior that people become addicted to drugs or alcohol or a lot of other things, because they can't find another way to get a good feeling inside their body. And so like exercising, or the baseball stuff, or whatever, like something, drawing, whatever, writing, anything, something. Go outside and garden, whatever it is, you have to have some sort of something to express that physical energy, or whatever that is, manifesting inside.
So does he understand that concept when you
I don't
put
think
it
so.
out that way? No.
No, I don't think so. But I think it's again, it's kind of like planting that seed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. To where when he
Or
does see it, he goes, "Ah,
mhm,
Daddy
exactly.
said." Yeah.
Yep. And then again, the kids that act certain ways, not saying like addicts or drug addicts or whatever, but just
No,
like
no, 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 no.
like these are
Addicted
not these are
personality.
not your friends. These are not the people that when you see somebody starting to do this isn't the way that you
Yeah.
got to move away from that or whatever, because sometimes people are going to use you for a dopamine hit too. They're
Yeah.
going to get you to get in trouble, and then they'll get excited off of all that. So
Yeah.
you just got to learn to manage yourself, and like,
Be responsible for what is yours.
yeah, everything is in your control.
Yeah.
And it got to work on never letting it be external, which is
Yeah.
hard, but try to direct your own.
Yeah, I remember my parents being like really big on like us being able to drive ourselves and like being confident and like that when we got to that age where it was like we never kind of the places you ended up were like on your head.
Mm-hmm.
You have full capability to get yourself away from whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and like having those conversations early and having those, because like even if I did make the mistake or ended up in this bad situation or whatever, my dad, I know, and my mom too, like they did a good job of like, there was still the voice in my head that goes, aha, they told me about this. I should probably start to solve this.
Figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, right? I just want to be able to be a voice that he wants to hear in his head, though,
Yeah.
you know, and in her too, obviously. But that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Is like you want to be the positive voice that they hear in their head, and not the one that's also telling them negative things too. Because not it. Everybody's capable of something, right? And
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing too. Is thankfully we've been blessed so far. They both do well with academic stuff. They both are at least moderately athletic and healthy. Charlie's had some health scares and stuff throughout the years, but overall, she's strong and smart and funny. So all those things have been pretty good for us. It's been kind of easier maybe in that way than maybe some people have to just say, yeah, you just got to do this with them because they can just do it because not everybody's that way. Not everybody's going to be able to maybe do that. And so we're blessed, definitely with two strong, healthy kids that are able to, you know, push harder
Yeah.
and achieve by pushing harder. And so I want them to be able to understand that they're stronger than they imagine, you know, and
Yeah.
and, and that's it. Just whatever. Again, all the different things we do now, like me and you or whatever, are none of the things we were talking about, kind of in a way when we were first getting together. Is like we weren't doing it this way, right? We're just moving
Yeah.
around, doing things, and now it's moving to another level. So do the thing, and then within that there may be some other thing, and then within that there may be some other things. You just keep, you keep growing and improving as the interest finds you, and you'll learn
Consistency
from
was
there.
something that like I saw a little bit of growing up because of like the guys that I knew from like swimming. Like I swim, and so like I would see guys that had started 3 4 years ahead of me when they were 10. By the time I was 14 and they were 18, oh, they have like a full ride scholarship and they're like swimming at this
Mm,
thing, and it's like, oh, they got that because they never stopped.
yep.
And like and I had a swim coach when I was a kid. He's actually the guy that's probably the reason that I'm alive, is that he was who I went up to when I like was having my heart attack at swim practice and was like, hey, I think I don't feel good. And instead of just like looking at it like a 13-year-old kid and being like, come on, it's hot out here, we know, he was just like, yeah, go call your mom, like see what's up, and then like that. But he was like always athletic. He still like rides mountain bikes. And I remember he was like really into like road biking and mountain biking back then, and like he would bring them on all the like swim trips, like when we go on training trips and stuff. He'd always have his bike, and we get up to go to practice, and he had already gone and ridden like 60 miles, and it's like
Mm,
one of those things. It's like, oh, like yeah, this dude's like older or whatever, and I don't know how old he was back then. Like I might have been a child, and he was 35, and I was like, oh man, you're ancient, like,
yep.
but
Oh, for sure.
but like I saw like a lot of adults around me that were like still moving, and it was like, oh, like if you keep up this consistent thing, like you can keep up your mind, you can keep up your body, like you can keep things like moving. And I think that lesson that I see kids get, especially through like the jiu-jitsu world, but just like sports in general, like I feel like kids playing sports, they learn it. There's the winning part, there's the like you want to be a champion, but it's also just like humans are built to move, like we should
Mm,
move.
mm.
And it's like you should always find a game or find something to play or
And
find something
competition
to
is a
keep you
natural part
moving.
of
Yeah.
society, of whatever you want to say, the order of things.
But you
So
can't come undone when you lose. Like I think that that's something that we've
no, that's what I say.
lost.
It's just a
Yeah.
natural. It's a natural part of it.
Yeah.
Winning and losing, competing for things, and you know, it is what it is. And you just the more you can do it one way or the other early, the less it'll be a problem. Hopefully, in the right mindsets. Um, I think for me that was one of the things when I was fighting a lot is like I didn't have a lot of experience winning and losing in a bunch of things yet, and so I was still really scared to go pull the trigger on stuff, and never, not never, but for a while was afraid, of the consequences more than I was willing to go like do it and just let it be. So the more you can do it when you're younger, before you develop any fears of that kind of stuff, and you can be guided correctly, I think it's better. And you're going to compete for things, and this is one of the biggest things that I've explained this season too. Um, you and I are friends, Isaac. We're both on a team together here, but now there's a job that's available
Yeah.
that we both want that job though. Do I just let you have it because you're my friend? And do you just try to give it to me because I'm your friend? Or do we both do our best to try to get the job, and then the best man gets it, and that's it, right? You got to kind of just fall back in line as part of the team if that's what you want to do, is be part of the team. So you got to be willing to compete against your
So is
friends.
it so is this like a starting quarterback type of
Yeah,
scenario
or a
versus
position, yeah, any position
yeah,
that you may want like that. If you're thinking about
yeah.
it, like you want to be the shortstop. Maybe as a kid you want to be the shortstop or whatever. You're thinking that, and so like, well, there's already somebody playing that, and that's your friend.
Yeah.
Your friend also plays shortstop. What the best guy is going to get the job. So you got to be okay with trying to beat him out to get the job, and then he or you have got to be okay if it doesn't happen for you, because unless you don't want to be a part of the team anymore.
Unless you're in that specific position.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because that means you don't want to be a part of the team necessarily if you can only do it the way that you want in that one position, right? So I understand you wanna play a different spot. We're gonna try to let the best guy get it, and then if needed, we'll have opportunities for that. But it is what it is. And look, you can't be mad if it's not you. Maybe you're not prepared yet. Maybe you are. Maybe it's just not time yet. But eventually, being this good person, this good teammate, that opportunity will come up again. And when it's your turn, step up and be ready for it. Watch your
Right.
friend who got the job before you, see what he did correct, see how he played well, see whatever it is, see the mistakes. When somebody's coaching them, they're coaching you as well for the future. When somebody's telling somebody what to do, they generally
Mm-hmm.
mean that for all of them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
specifically for that position, even if that's the one you want, study that, see what they say. And then that when you're in that spot, you already know what coach says to do there because you've been paying attention. That's the only way. Or you can be mad and quit. And I can't tell you which one you want to do, right? You
Uh-huh.
know what you want to do. So if you want it, let's get to work. I got your back. I love you. If not, then we have to find something else to do then. So that's just been it. And he's been stepping up, trying to compete and trying to get it. And that's been great for him. You know, it's been fun for me to watch struggle, a struggle emotionally at times to stay calm,
Right.
and not let those moments of weakness, you know, from either one of us get to him where, maybe he's feeling something and then I want to, get over it or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, no, I understand what you're feeling. That's a real feeling. It sucks. There's really
Here's
not much.
how to navigate it.
Yeah. There's not much we can do about it right now. What we can do is try to keep, you know, improving. And look, you made that mistake this time. Let's don't make it again next time. Think about it. What did you do? What happened? Okay. Don't do that next time. Now, does that mean you're gonna be perfect again? No. You might mess up again, but that's okay. You got to keep. That's the thing. You have to be okay making mistakes, and then the coaches have to be okay with you making mistakes. And if every time a kid makes a mistake, the coach is all like, "Oh
It's a
no,"
dire consequence, and yeah, yeah, yeah.
you get taken off the field immediately every time, or whatever it is. Or one of my problems with him was like he's like me a lot. And I guess this was me projecting a little bit, but when he gets frustrated or mad or whatever, he'll cry, and it was like, dude,
Oh
you can't
yeah.
do that out here. Don't do that. Like they're gonna pick you apart now, and you got to get focused because now the ball is gonna come to you again when you start doing that because that's just how the game goes, right? And so just having that, I think, made it harder at first until I was just like, it's okay, man. I understand what's happening now. This is passion. This is like that competitor, whatever it is. I
So
can't.
learn to funnel it.
We got to fight. Let's fight. Let's fight for it. That's okay. Go down fighting, no matter what. I don't care if you're crying. If you're crying, fight. That if it's making you feel that way, go get it. Don't let that feeling make you quit. Don't let that make you feel small. Right? Go after it, and you can cry as much as you need to right then, but just don't let it make you break because you're getting frustrated or whatever that is. Right? It's not the
Well,
same thing.
I I remember this like as a little kid watching Star Wars with dad, and it's I mean it's so cliche and stupid, but it's the like Yoda telling like Luke of like if you're fighting with your emotions, you can't see clearly. And that's like I remember in sports like realizing that having that like swell up of like if you can't swallow that and get rid of it, you don't get right. That's a bad way to put it because especially through my fighting career, I learned like you never get rid of it. You
Mm-mm.
just have to learn how to ball it up, put it in the corner, and deal with it. And that is like I think the lesson on being able to like really push it over the other edge. Because like the guys that you see that are the greatest, they still cry. They still cry at the end. They still because it's a huge emotional
It's
dump to finish
emotionally,
something. Yeah.
yes, yeah,
Yeah. And so understanding that it's okay to have those feelings, it's okay to feel all that, but you have to control it and you have to be the one in charge of it.
just do
If
your
it's in
job
charge of
first.
you, it'll when it matters, that's the problem.
Yep,
Is that
you just
when it
got to do your job
matters,
first,
you can't make it clear. Yeah.
whatever that is, right? And
Whatever.
as a man raising a man, that's an important lesson. And I'm sure I teach the same thing to my daughter too. Not saying that either, but like
Yeah.
definitely, man to man, that's a thing that we, I think, have to accept as the protectors and for not just our family, but like the community and the kind of man that I want my son to be. You
Yeah.
know,
I
is that
think I think adults, a lot of adults don't have the like the emotional intelligence. Is that that's all it is like having the intelligence to understand this is an emotion, this is a moment. I feel this. It's real, but it's not real.
it's not permanent,
Yeah.
right? That's the biggest thing. Is like this is a temporary situation, and if you let it become permanent, that is a decision,
Mm.
right? You've made a decision to decide that you suck now because you made this mistake, and that becomes a real thing in your life too, where
Yeah.
it transfers out. That's what I'm saying. Is like I feel like this has helped us have a lot of these conversations about life in a way
Yeah.
through the games. And like with jujitsu for him especially, man, I was hard. I was really hard on him because he reflected me directly to everybody and all the parents, and all that stuff made me look bad, and it made me all those different things. And this has been a really really great thing for us to have, where it's not that,
It's
you
not
know
dad's thing.
it's not my thing. No, I
Yeah.
do enjoy it, and I did love it a lot as a kid,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
would have
Yeah.
played forever if I could
So you
have or
can
whatever.
connect.
But like,
You can
yeah,
connect through the shared enjoyment, and it's not everything riding on it
no, it's just the
for
passion
either of y'all. Yeah.
of the fun.
Yeah.
And then I remember wanting to achieve, and I remember wanting to be pushed in a way. You know what I mean? I wanting to be coached, wanting to be told the right things to do or whatever it is. So like I see that in him too, but if you blow him off, he'll quickly just daydream all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like you're
Yeah.
saying, if you just throw him out there and it's like, oh, he don't get it, then he's fine just digging in the dirt and stuff like that too. But then once he started getting it, he's like, no, I wanna compete. Like I wanna play. I wanna be one of the all stars. I wanna do, I wanna make my team in middle school
Yeah.
when whatever. And it's like, oh hey, well, dude, we gotta go to work, like, getting to that level. right? It's going to take
Yeah.
some time to build it up or whatever, and that's been really fun.
Yeah.
And that's the process on your life as a whole, whatever you're doing, right? 'Cause sometimes it's a mental gap, sometimes it's a physical gap, sometimes it's an information gap, and you just got to be able to read that again pattern and know where you are in the cycle in order to level up or have a good coach or somebody driving the car behind you up the hill.
I think that's too, like a lot of these guys that are talking about the eco like type of approach and that whole conversation. I don't know if that's dead yet or if they're still beating that horse, but like as far as the idea behind it is that it, I need to do it enough times for me to identify the mistakes to then correct them, and that's going to look different, and the patterns and doing the pattern recognition and doing it over and over again. If the first time I do it somebody goes, that sucks, that's terrible, and then I go, well, I suck and I'm terrible, well, then now I don't do it again the next 10,000 times to do the 955,000 that take
Take
to get there. Like 500 of them are going to be wrong. Like all wrong. But you
yeah,
have to do those 500. And I think a lot of kids don't get pushed over that. And some adults stay in that pattern for a very long time of like, no, you're going to suck at this. Like I realized that with the warm-ups when I spent that like year and a half like really pushing people through the warm-ups that were day ones, never even done it, never wrestled, never done anything. It's like, no, look, I know it's going to look wrong. I'll video you and show you how wrong it looks so that when you do it again in 6 months and it looks kind of right, it's like that's the pattern.
better. Yeah, so that's exciting.
It
Along
is.
with other exciting news that's going on before we're going to get out of here, I feel like we're getting a
See,
little later into our day.
we are.
There is some stuff going on that we have not been talking about because it ain't been none of y'all's business yet.
Yeah.
But now it is. Uh, Isaac's been working on something. Isaac's been working on a
Yeah.
lot of stuff.
I work on a lot of things,
Yeah,
but
he been
as soon
working
as
on
I put one
something.
thing down, another thing lands in my lap
Well,
and I
tell us
work
about
on it.
this thing.
So
Tell us what
this
this
thing
thing.
this started like I guess I was looking through the photos. It was last year we did a weekend where we had Carlos Machado come to Cancun and he taught a seminar, and then the black belt in Cancun is Johnny Hernandez, and he is a black belt under Eddie. He got his black belt I think like 2 or 3 years ago from Eddie, but he's been training with Eddie for a long time. He's been doing what a lot of guys do that people don't realize that our system is really good at, is that a lot of these guys realized the system and like kind of like saw the benefits that Eddie was like showing and like the warm ups and like the different ways that guys like were spreading the system, and they started traveling to Eddie. I mean, Brandon's one of those guys, Sean Applegate's one of those guys, that the guys that traveled to Eddie and then brought it back to their place. Like to some extent, you're kind of the same idea that like you traveled out to the West Coast and you got with Boogie and those guys and like got it direct from the source, and now you're back near the area that you started in, bringing the system and bringing the ideas back. And so down here, like Johnny really kind of like represents the 10th planet idea that like
Are we
somebody wants.
pilgrim?
Are we pilgrims? Maybe. It get we get off. I get off in the
Sorry,
bushes
sorry, sorry,
sometimes thinking
sorry.
about
I'm
that.
sorry. The HD. I'm gonna mute myself.
I followed, but he he really represents the idea that like one time somebody told me that like the 10th planet system isn't a system, it's not a move, it's not a thing, it's not this, like it's not Eddie, it's an open mind, and it's the like you allow for ideas to exist so that people can work them out and so that we can poke holes and figure it out. And like the debate is the system, the creation of being able to all have different opinions but then come together to have like one congruent idea is the like open mind. And like down here back when the world was melting down and everybody whatnot couldn't put on shows, Johnny was down here and he was like, well, hey, we're down here in Cancun and we can do stuff. And they started the combat jiu-jitsu with that crew down here, and like they started putting those together and doing them, and that's kind of like where that birthed. and Johnny was like working and doing all that, and all of us kind of get to a point where we're trying to give back to the community and like create these tournaments. And so like he had pitched when I was first hanging around him, like, hey, like I want to do like a invitational, kind of like Eddie, like kind of do that thing and kind of do some of my own spins on some of the rules and stuff. And I was like, yeah, cool. So last year we put together a bracket of 8, and I think we had like 4 or 5 super fights, I think, if I remember the bracket correctly. But Kyle Chambers came down. We had a bunch of different guys from the area, from Mexico, from Cancun, from Mexico City, from all over the country that came in and competed for a $2,000 pot. And they were calling this one the Ogi, the OG Nogi. And they did like they came out and they had on rash guards and gi pants
Oh yeah,
in homage to Eddie.
I remember that.
And and it was one of those things where like, is it gonna play a factor? And bro, with leg locks and leg lock masters, like Kyle Chambers in there, like yeah, definitely extra friction is a thing. But like it was really fun. We ran it, and the whole community super liked it, because down here I keep telling people that like it's almost kind of like 2010 to 2012 type vibe in the like combat sports world down here, but with the internet and all the information that we have now. So like what we were just talking about, how like good people are and how like well learned and well versed they are in all the different things. Down here it's the same way. They just have the same limited access to like black belts. And so like your purple belts are guys that have trained for 15, 20 years, some of them, but they just haven't been to a black belt or whatever, but they have a lot of the information because of the internet. And so you have like this weird like underground like vibe of the whole community of like really good grapplers. Like we were talking about on the show the other day that at the last EBI, like you saw, like the grappling down here has come
They coming.
up, and like it's good. And so all that, long story short, we ended up getting hooked up with a gentleman that is like the godfather of rap here in Mexico. And
I just like hearing you say that.
I've been trying to figure out a way to describe it, because like the first time I met this guy, his name is Babo, and he has the his brainchild that is the Cartel de Santos, which is like the like group that they operate under as a band. And when I heard his music for the first time and like meeting him and like learning all this stuff, I left. And then I was traveling around. Like there was a bunch of different places in Mexico that I was traveling around during that time period. I would hear the music everywhere. Like you would just like hear it coming out of a shop, and then you'd hear it coming out of somebody's house, and then like you drive by a truck and somebody was playing it, and then like you go by the barber shop and there was like an old guy out front with his like boombox sitting next to him and it's playing, and it's like part of the culture, and you're like, whoa, that's crazy. And so he trains with Johnny, and Johnny's been a friend of his for a long time, and like since like his early days. And Johnny like raced motorcycles, and he's had a fascinating life. I'm gonna have him on the show soon to talk about all this. But we he's super interested in the like jujitsu community and the like idea behind the like combat sports. He's a big fan of the UFC and like Brandon Moreno and like that whole thing, because like I said, the combat scene, the combat sports scene here is like growing just as fast as it is like in the States. And like I think it's really a global phenomenon that we're at this point. And so we started trying to like put together more tournaments and more ideas and doing things. And so this weekend, Saturday, we're having the very first Cancun Open, but it's spelled in the like Mayan spelling, Kaankun Open.
So that
And
wasn't you just trying to be clever.
no, that's how it's spelled, like with the Mayan way. It means snake nest, which is like what like Cancun means. It's like
Really?
yeah. Yeah. Um
A little like the more you know.
yeah. Separate story for a separate time, but like Cancun was actually a Harvard project. That like that's how it started as a city.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like in the 60s, I think. I can go back and fact check that and have a factual day with Isaac on it, but or have somebody on here that can actually
No.
tell the
Okay. I got a
historically
bit.
accurate.
Yep. I got it. I'll write it down.
But this weekend we're having the tournament. It's an open, and we're having an open to one kind of like help showcase a lot of the like up and coming talent that's here in Mexico. There's a ton. There's a lot of guys that and girls that are super, super, super talented, and so like we're trying to give them a platform and let them kind of see it. There's right now three full brackets, and then we have two other brackets that are kind of piecing together of who signed up and whatnot, because like I said, it's an open, so we haven't really like recruited to fill the brackets. We just opened it up, and like whoever wants to sign up to come do it, they can come do it, showcase their skills, and then if they win their bracket, they're going to qualify for a absolute bracket that's going to be in the PGF rule set that we're going to do at Casa Babylonia, which is Babo's house and his recording studio. And so like we're going to set up there and we're going to have like a big show, and there's going to be a whole lot of uh, big names that are like from Mexico, and then like maybe like a couple guys that are from the States that we've talked to that are going to come be on the invitational. And if you qualify by winning your bracket, you qualify into that tournament. And it's going to be in the early fall, I believe, is what the plan is.
Heck
So
yeah.
yeah, building it up down here, kind of doing the same thing, because everybody faces the same problem. And like when I got to the point that I was doing this like full time and producing shows and like putting on like actual like jujitsu tournaments, it was around the time we were doing the Mid South, and like I'd started working with the PGF, and we started working with Keelan and doing this. Is that like I really threw myself into it for two reasons. One, I got injured a couple times. Like I was trying to ramp back up into an MMA comeback when I first started working with you. And I one of those things where they were just like one thing stacked on top of another, and I found myself injured, and I just couldn't give up the sport. Like I was like, I can't go just be injured for 6 months. And so I grabbed a hold of the camera, I sat down, and I like started seeing like where are the holes? What are we not getting covered? Like what is it? And when you looked at the like jujitsu community as a whole, we had all these events, but we had no way to keep up with what happened or see it or have any of the visuals. Like the only visuals that we have of the history of jiu-jitsu up until the last like 3 or 4 years was from like major events, and even the major events were not good coverage. So I really, really dedicated myself to the fact of like we need high quality coverage. We need to start to be able to see what happened and absorb it the way we want to as a community and see it. And so the PGF like opened up that door for me, and Keelan really, really like I learned so much from him, like working with Keelan and working with the PGF. Like
Keelan
that
sucks.
it that dude's a freaking genius. You know, yeah. I know you hate him.
Taking all my praise back. He did his heel turn last week, so I think
Oh,
it's
okay,
coming now.
okay,
It's coming.
okay. Well,
Feel it. I can feel it.
I might have to be the like heels henchman, I guess, is what makes my
I
job
mean,
roll then.
you sacrifice yourself. You know, it is what it is. Like I told you earlier, it's competition. We could be friends or whatever, but I
But when
gotta
it comes
eat.
down to it, yeah, hey,
I
we got
got
to put
kids to
food on the
feed.
table. But the like so like throwing into that and like being that I wanted to give the grapplers an opportunity that like I never had, because you can't, to some extent some guys do a good job of like the selfie thing or like documenting themselves and things like that, but to some extent it doesn't drive the nail home the same way as if somebody else's perspective, another eye that's watching you and acknowledging the greatness or the horrible or whatever it is that you're going through right now, just acknowledging it and making it real. It's not just your reality, because like I think that combat sports get so lonely in that way that like it's only your reality when you lose. You're the one in the back with a caved in nose and crying in your blood, and like nobody feels that or sees that or experiences that and understands it. And so like my perspective from what I've been trying to provide to the community has been like that lens, the lens that's in the back, that's like, no, like this is what it's like, this is what it feels like to be here. And you can also see through all of it is like, why would you do that to yourself? Well, then you see the moments that are in the in between that you're like, oh, this is why. That moment that they feel like that release you're talking about when they finish the thing. And I mean, you talk about PGF this last season, when you watched Ryan get to the end and you saw him, he had a little bit of a release the day before when he was like talking that, but like I'll tell you another genius that I work with, Mike Plaster, was behind the camera on that, and he's a genius, and he does a really good job of building up rapport with everybody in the community. And so when he's sitting there interviewing you, it's like your homie's talking to you. And so like, you get these moments, but then you get that release and you get that, like, you see him achieve the thing, and that release they have is like, oh, that's what attracts me to keep doing this and keep making this and keep telling the human story that's happening inside this community. That, like, for sure, like I've retreated into this community a couple times in my life where it's like, this is my safe place, this is the thing that I love, this is the thing that got me through so much and whatnot. And so like that's what all these different projects are for me. Like that's what all these different like leagues and all these things are, is like trying to provide that platform that is motivated from that motivation, because so much of this and so much of the world's built on this. I think this is why I walked away from many of the sports that I've been involved in a lot of ways, is that I understand that money's real and I understand that money's necessary, but at the same time, when it becomes all about the money, it then loses it. And then there's somebody that's running it that they don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care about that story and what's happening to you and the emotional. And what happens is you end up with a bunch of guys and ladies on the other side that are burned up, used up, and desperate. And so it's like, all right, well, give them the power to not be that on the other side and let them be able to tell their story when they finally like need to tell that story.
I think that's a good place to end that.
Yeah.
Usually I'm the one that does that. So I'm gonna let you have it. We appreciate everybody. We love y'all. Listen, this is a big passion project. If y'all didn't hear it, you heard it again. Peace.